This is ACMi News, recognized nationwide as the first place winner of the 2022 Hometown Media Award for News Access.
They weathered a protracted pandemic, an old school teardown, and a new school build-up. They kept on fighting to the end. They are the champions. Arlington High's graduating class of 2022 did it, and we'll take you to the graduation ceremony. After a 3-year pandemic-riddled hiatus, it's time to dust off your porch and party. Out where a friend is a friend. Porchfest 2022 is back in the saddle again, coming to an entrance hall near you. We are well into celebrating Pride Month. Before you look both ways prior to crossing the street, look down as well. These bright colors reaffirm the town's commitment to full inclusion of the LGBTQIA+ community in Arlington's civic life. And we talked to a married couple in Kyiv, Ukraine, now that it's been 100 days plus since Russia invaded that nation. How are they faring now that the capital city is once again under attack? We'll show you some trophies captured by the Ukrainian army on display in downtown Kyiv, a stark reminder of the absolute brutality of this bloody conflict. ACMi News is next.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered, giving you stories that count from people who care. Reliable, trustworthy, dependable. This is the 2022 nationwide award-winning ACMi News.
Well, they did it. Arlington High's class of 22 moved the tassel from right to left. And now it's time to go out into the world. Hello, I'm Anim Osmani.
And I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us. You gotta hand it to these grads. The AHS class of 22 never had it easy. They weathered a prolonged pandemic, political unrest here and abroad, and finally, destruction and construction of a new school. But through it all, they were determined, and we congratulate Arlington's class of 22.
Everyone, I present to you the graduates of Arlington High School's class of 2022.
Good afternoon, graduates, and congratulations. Not only to you, but also to your families who are here celebrating with you today, and your teachers who have guided you towards this momentous occasion. The important people in your lives have shared in your journey through the Arlington Public Schools from the moment you entered, and we are all looking forward to seeing the impact we know you will have on the world as you enter this next phase of your lives. It is no secret to anyone here that you are entering the adult world during challenging times. But the future is bright because yours is not a class that will be deterred by challenges.
Waving goodbye with an absent-minded smile, I watch her go with a surge of that well-known sadness, and I have to sit down for a while.
At this time, I am proud to announce the senior class gift. The class of 2022 has created a time capsule to be included in the new high school during the second phase of construction. This time capsule will include many artifacts that we as a class have deemed representative of our high school years, including a notebook with personalized messages, a signed t-shirt with the names of our class members, and a special edition Class of 2022 mask. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great honor to present to you the graduates of Arlington High School's Class of 2022.
Thank you all, and I hope you all enjoy a wonderful rest of your day. Congratulations, class of 2022.
ACMi covered the graduation in its entirety. If you missed the ceremony or if you wish to see it again, just go to our website, acmi.tv. Again, that's acmi.tv. And congrats, class of 22. Make us proud.
When it comes to the pandemic, enough is enough. Time to sweep the porch off, grab your flip-flops, a guitar, and some sort of portable. Arlington's Porchfest 2022 is on the way. The town's favorite grassroots community music festival, sponsored by the Arlington Center for the Arts, is set for Saturday, June 18th. You're looking at Porchfest 3 years ago, and like Porchfest 2019, there will be 200 plus porches this year, several bands and artists returning to your neighborhood. The town-wide festival will be moving from west to east from noon till 6 p.m. Also this year, the Arlington Commission for Arts and Culture will host an after-party at Arlington Service Station at 334 Mass Ave. Join them at 6 p.m. for a dance party and performance by the Squeezebox Stompers. A special shout out to all Arlington Porchfest 2022 sponsors for their support of this free community event. Porchfest is also made possible in part by a generous grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council. If it rains, not to fret. The Porchfest rain date is set for June 19th.
If you haven't been in the area of Park Circle recently, you should make a trip. The sea of red, white, and blue flags is certainly worth it. It's all part of the Flags for Heroes fundraiser sponsored by the Rotary Club of Arlington. The public dedication was held Sunday, June 5th, and ACMi News Director Jeff Barnt was in attendance.
Nature provided the perfect summer backdrop for area residents who wanted to thank the heroes who made a huge difference in their lives.
Dedicated to the military, police, firefighters, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, nurses, grandparents, and so many others.
Heroes from all walks of life whose selfless acts changed things for the better.
It was my wife, Camille. We were married for 54 years. I was blessed to have her for all those years. Yeah, wonderful woman. Loved doing it, was happy all the time, smile. Just, I miss it terrible, but that goes with it. I'd do it again. I'd do it another 50 years if I could.
People love it. You see more flags getting dedicated in the names of their loved ones to pay tribute to their heroism. And it's right off Route 2. People drive by here all the time, and a day doesn't go by when I don't hear from somebody who says, wow, have you been up by the water tower? The flags look great, they're present, and everyone comes up to take a look.
For many people, these grounds are a place of contemplation, quiet reflection, reflecting back on those mentors, those people who had a major and positive influence in the lives of others, an influence that lasts a lifetime and beyond. There are roughly 180 flags covering the grounds here at Park Circle. Each flag costs $40, and they will be flying here through June the 15th.
The money is set aside for scholarships. The Rotary Club of Arlington provides 3 $2,000 scholarships annually, one for a graduate of Arlington High School, one from Arlington Catholic, and one from Minuteman.
What do you think when you see all these flags here at Park Circle and the meaning behind it? Everybody has a mentor, a hero.
It's true, because I have severe ADD and dyslexia, and I have heroes right now that through the pandemic, I'm where I am right now is because of Father Mark, Father Michael, and the Arlington Police Department. Yeah. They've made me realize you can do anything you want to, and they have me running every day, and now I'm passing that on to the kids. I'm making the kids realize that there are incentives, like if they do something good in school, well then they get to be first in line the next day. And making the kids realize that it's not about bullying each other, it's about getting along and being the best of yourselves and what you can do.
I just love being part of this. It's such a wonderful thing. I mean, in these times here, we really need people. We need people to be encouraged, to be patriotic. They should be taught. Like, never mind, what is a veteran? The kids were saying, what was a veteran? The 8-year-old brownies, right, Bonnie? Yeah. I just love being the camaraderie. Once you develop that there, it stays with you for life.
Thank you very much for showing up today, and thank you for being one of Arlington's favorite sons.
Thank you very much.
If you missed the public dedication, you can still sponsor a flag to pay honor to your personal hero. For more information, just go to arlingtonmarotaryflags.org. Again, that's arlingtonmarotaryflags.org.
What do you get when you mix crosswalks with rainbow-colored chalk? It's more exciting than just plain, everyday, run-of-the-mill asphalt, that's for sure. The town's Rainbow Commission has been busy doing a little street work. It's all part of the annual crosswalk painting that in recent years has been gaining in popularity. The commission this year has expanded to 3 nights of painting at 3 locations along Mass Ave. Arlington Center at Mass Ave and Mystic, Arlington Heights just down the street from us at Mass Ave and Park Ave, and finally in East Arlington at Lake Street and Mass Avenue. You will also see brightly colored pride banners flying along the main corridor in Arlington Center, all in an effort to bring awareness and to celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in Arlington. Reminders that absolutely no one should be marginalized or underrepresented in our society. The Rainbow Commission is staging many activities throughout Pride Month. To find out more on this month's events, just go to their website at rainbowarlington.org. Again, that's rainbowarlington.org.
Do our lawmakers really listen to us? Many constituents don't believe so, once the person they voted for is in office anyway. But an Arlington author says nothing could be further from the truth. Miriam Stein penned the book, Make Your Voice Matter with Lawmakers, No Experience Necessary. ACMi News talked to Ms. Stein about her book and what you need to know to make sure your voice is heard at all levels of government.
Understand that your elected officials are real people, just like you, your friends, your relatives, etc. And the kinds of things that influence you influence them. Talking with other people, what's in the media, and legislators have some additional influences, the leadership in the legislative branch, national leaders, religious leaders, if they follow a religion. There are a lot of different influences on them, and they have to make a decision. And that's sometimes hard. Constituents are one of the 2 most important influences on legislators. The other is the legislative leadership. And constituents should never overlook that fact.
When I started out in broadcasting and I had to contact my first few lawmakers, I was shy at first. You know, you're intimidated by people on Capitol Hill, people in the State House. But when you realize, hey, they work for you, and they really do pay attention to what you have to say and the issues. And if you write to them, someone in that office, an aide maybe, they're gonna pick up on it and show it to the elected official.
That's absolutely true. When I do workshops, people ask me how many calls or emails or letters make a difference. And I ask people to take a guess. People say 10, 20. Somebody even said hundreds or thousands.
Oh my goodness.
The real reason at the State House, which is where I've worked, is 2 or 3 can make a difference. Not necessarily on hot button issues like taxes, but on many, many issues, 2 or 3 communications from a constituent, and that's really important, can draw attention to an issue. And I just want to mention a quote on the cover of my book by Representative Jay Kaufman, who retired a few years ago from the State House. He says, even 1 call, letter, or email expressing some caring about an issue can get my attention.
To get a copy of Miriam's book, you can email her at miriam.stein@comcast.net. Again, that's miriam.stein@comcast.net. If you're a regular viewer of ACMi News, you know in recent weeks we've been in touch with several people in Ukraine, giving us updates on how they're coping with this brutal war.
It's hard to fathom, but it's now been 100 days since Vladimir Putin's military machine invaded Ukraine. Despite air raid sirens and the constant threat of rocket fire, John and Natasha Sennett decided to stay in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. ACMi talked to the Senate recently about this dark anniversary to see how things have changed for the couple. They told us some of those changes are forever.
Hundreds of thousands are on the move. Many are children, like Mark. Dad will sell things there and help our heroes, our army, our country, and maybe he'll even fight himself.
How are you two faring? We've talked to you 2 or 3 times in the past, and we've talked about different things, but just physically and mentally, how are you faring?
It's become this grind. Like, you can tell that the war has changed. Like, it changed like maybe a week ago when it became this just like deadly slow grind of death. You know, it's not here in Kyiv, but it's in the east, and you can feel it because, you know, we've been here since day one. So it was depressing for a couple of days. We would get good news, we would get bad news. The thing is that we're waiting for that Ukrainian offensive. We're waiting for those heavy weapons to come from the West so that they can go on the offensive, like go on a serious offensive.
Things could have been even worse. A 40-mile column of armoured vehicles had been bearing down on Kyiv amid warnings the capital could fall within days. Then attacks like this started to happen. Ukrainian drones smashing Russian tanks, the modern-day David versus Goliath.
People realize that militarily, Ukraine has won the war already. It's just a matter of time. But on other fronts, like diplomatic front and economic front and everything else that the war brings with you, it's not just battles in the battlefield, it's other issues. I think that Russia has been making some headway in terms of, I think, collective West, as they call it here. They just kind of started dialogue with the aggressor in some ways. So we're hearing things about like, oh, maybe we should talk about the territory and you should accept it as is, that Russia is already, maybe you should give up Donbass area altogether and things like that. So it's psychologically, you know, you kind of feel indignant, but you also realize that there's nothing you can do about it. Like, how can you talk about somebody giving up the territory when they're fighting with their lives for it?
Well, this looks like the aftermath of a ferocious battle, but it's in fact an exhibition that's been assembled here in the center of the Ukrainian capital.
You sent me some pictures, emailed some pictures to me just a few days ago, and they're, I guess they're trophies of sorts, what the Ukrainians can call. And I replied back to you. I said it's an ugly sight, but at the same token, it's pretty. Can you explain what you took pictures of, where those tanks and armored vehicles from the Russian military came from, and how long they're going to be on display in Kyiv?
Okay, we don't know how long they'll be on display. They are in what is called St. Michael's Square. They took in the injured. It's an Orthodox monastery, and they're sitting right out in front of the monastery, basically. And all of those pieces came from like Irpin, Hostomel, the stuff that's right outside of Kyiv, where the bad stuff happened. Where all the murder. I mean, it's happening everywhere, but those battles that were right outside of Kyiv, that's where all those things are from. And they each have a label on them when it was taken down. I mean, we didn't take pictures of that. But it has a little story in Ukrainian and in English. It makes you feel good, not in the way that, but it makes you feel good to go say, okay, this is what Ukraine did, and this is what they're capable of. And they kept us in Kyiv safe because of all of those sacrifices.
It makes you appreciate that you were still alive, because Kyiv was, in the first few days, which we didn't really, we knew we were under threat, but not as much threat as it actually was. Right. We didn't realize how bad of a threat it was.
One guy told me, they said, look, it's the first time we've actually seen this stuff up close, because even though it's been very, on everybody's television screens, not everybody's had the chance to come this close to this kind of Russian armor. And he said it's important because seeing this Russian weaponry destroyed in this way makes us believe that we can win. And I thought that was a really poignant remark by just one of the visitors we spoke to here, looking at this destroyed armor in the center of the Ukrainian capital.
It basically became a shield for Kyiv. So they took that brunt weight and they suffered the most, that Kyiv didn't. Not just seeing that, mind you, also smelling it.
Yes, you can smell it.
When you stand next to it, you smell the uniform, you smell all that, like I don't know how to describe it, the smell of death and obviously, battle. And it's just, it makes you appreciate it. You don't feel, I was surprised because I thought it was a good person, but I didn't feel sad for people because their uniforms and everything is there still. People who
their boots,
died.
Their rations.
I thought that I would feel compassion maybe, but I was surprised at myself. I don't know, I didn't. It was that kind of a situation where, well, it's either them or us. And then they came with the sword, so to speak. And so that's how they left this earth. They stayed in Ukrainian earth.
ACMi News recently got in touch with another Ukrainian resident who was hell-bent on debunking the state-run media blitz pouring out of Russia on a daily basis. We will have their story next week.
Before we move on, I just want to say something. This is not scripted. What you just saw is part of a series that anybody watching ACMi News has seen over these last months. I want to acknowledge that while we are a hyper-local station, concentrated mostly on the Arlington community, this is an unprecedented degree of coverage and person-to-person coverage provided by our news director, Jeff Barnt. And I just want to say that you're not going to find this kind of thing on other local TV stations in Boston, in any other city. And we feel both privileged and a responsibility in bringing you these images and these words. And I just want to, again, acknowledge the work of our news director in producing this very, very special coverage of what is a global tragedy. Let's move on.
Thank you. And on to the next story. There's an author who's expressing interest in coming to Arlington to tell his fascinating story.
Francis Gary Powers Jr. is setting the record straight about Francis Gary Powers Sr. The elder Powers, you may remember, was shot down over Russia at the height of the Cold War, was tried and convicted as a spy, and was then used as a political pawn in a spy swap. This compelling story was the focus of the Steven Spielberg movie, Bridge of Spies.
U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers makes his first public appearance since he was exchanged for Soviet spy Rudolf Abel. Powers testifies before the Senate Armed Services Committee using a model of his plane. His capture and trial in the Soviet Union caused an international furor in 1960.
Well, my father's flying at his assigned altitude of 70,500 feet. There's 8 SA-2 missiles that are fired at his aircraft from Soviet missile bases near the city of Sverdlovsk. One of the missiles explodes behind the tail section, basically blows the tail section off. The nose pitches forward, the wings snap off, he falls out of the sky, spinning down towards the ground. He's able to clear himself from the wreckage. His parachute opens at about 15,000 feet. Once he lands on the ground, he's apprehended, turned over to the KGB, And then he is basically stuck in the Soviet Union for the next 21 months. 3-day trial, August of 1960, the verdict, 10 years in prison. He finishes out that sentence, the next 18 months of it, in Vladimir. Vladimir prison's 3 hours outside of Moscow. So my father was shot down over the Soviet Union on May 1st of 1960, spends almost 2 years in a Soviet prison. Then in February of 62, he's exchanged for a Soviet spy, Rudolf Abel, at the Gliniker Bridge in Potsdam, Germany.
Colonel Rudolf Ivanovich Abel was sentenced to 30 years in prison. How many secrets passed from Colonel Abel to the Soviet Union is not yet publicly known. On August 7th, 1957, the tenant of that studio was charged with being a colonel in Soviet intelligence. His real name, Rudolf Ivanovich Abel.
Convicted Russian spy Rudolf Abel was sentenced to 30 years, escaping the death penalty after his attorney argued that the United States might want to swap Abel for an American at some future time. Now, Abel has been exchanged for U-2 pilot Gary Powers.
Your father was snubbed here stateside on many levels of government. A lot of American citizens thought he should never have come home alive. He did, he chose to, and he wanted to live his life. He had a family, for goodness sakes. But he was maligned, and he was snubbed by the John F. Kennedy White House. He was invited initially to the White House, and in the last minute, at the 11th hour, the Attorney General, Robert F. Kennedy, says, no, put the kibosh on this meeting, don't meet with him.
Well, at the time, as my mother told me when I was growing up, Robert Kennedy, the president's younger brother, was Attorney General. He was trying to make a name for himself. He wanted to try my father as a traitor to the country. He convinced his older brother, the president, not to meet with my father after the meeting has been scheduled. The meeting was supposed to take place on March 6th of 1962, after my father's appearance before the Senate Select Committee hearing. My father goes into the committee hearing, 8 hours of deliberations, questions and answers back and forth. At the end of the session, the senators give him a standing ovation, basically a pat on his back, good job for your country. But by that time, the presidential meeting had already been canceled because Bobby Kennedy did not want his brother to be associated with my father, because it could have turned out that the Senate would have booed my father or labeled him a traitor. Who knows what could have happened? But instead, they labeled him a hero to the country. They exonerate him of any wrongdoing. But by that time, the presidential meeting has already been canceled, and basically Dad was snubbed by the JFK administration.
You will not be able to put down Powers' new book, Spy Pilot. It reveals much about one of the frightening turning points in the Cold War. The Aviation Museum of New Hampshire will host Powers Jr. for a book signing and an evening of Cold War history at the Wilton Town Hall Theater next Thursday, June 16th. For more information, just go to the New Hampshire Aviation Historical Society webpage, nhahs.org. That's nhahs.org. And we hope to have Mr. Powers here in Arlington in the very near future.
Finally, Arlington's town meeting is over. The very last session was held on Wednesday, June 8th. Among the articles considered, a resolution to take action in cleaning up the Alewife Brook, a very valuable natural resource area for Arlington residents. The brook has been the focus of discussion in recent months due to excessive sewage-contaminated discharges. The vote on that article was 197 to 1. ACMi had you covered. Big shout out to our government coordinator, Sean Keene. If you missed out on any particular session, you'll find them on our website, acmi.tv.
And that'll do it for this week's edition of ACMi News. Thanks for joining us. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Anim Osmani. Have a great week and enjoy the summer. And we'll see you next week from Studio A. Take care.